What happens when a young woman refuses to play by society's rules and everyone decides she's crazy? Hey, it's DD from Ladies First. Today we're talking about Girl Interrupted and how it exposes the dangerous myth that women who don't conform must be broken. From the first frame, Susanna is treated as someone who doesn't fit. She's 18, white, middle class, intelligent, and spiraling. After an attempt to end her life, she is admitted to Claymore, a fictional stand-in for McLean Hospital in Massachusetts. According to her records, she's labeled promiscuous, depressed, and suffering from a personality disorder, though this diagnosis of borderline personality disorder is applied retroactively, since it didn't even exist in the diagnostic manuals of the late 1960s. This discrepancy matters because what Girl Interrupted ultimately explores isn't just the reality of mental illness, but the language and authority used to define it, especially when the subject is a young woman. As Susanna's story unfolds, it becomes clear that her so-called symptoms, sexual independence, emotional turmoil, a lack of direction, aren't signs of pathology as much as they are signs of deviation. Deviation from what society expects of a good girl. Kaysen's memoir is fragmented and restrained, told in brief, vignette-like chapters. The film, by contrast, is a dramatized, character-driven journey that inserts Susanna into scenes and storylines she was not present for in the book. Director James Mangold fills in the gaps with high emotional stakes in relationships, particularly with Lisa Rowe, the magnetic and volatile sociopath played by Angelina Jolie. Lisa becomes a symbol of defiance. Wild, cruel, fearless, she's everything the institution cannot control. For a time, Susanna clings to her, almost in awe of her refusal to bend. But eventually, Lisa's rebellion reveals its own kind of prison, one where connection becomes manipulation and freedom becomes isolation. It's when Lisa pushes Daisy, a young woman with obsessive-compulsive tendencies and a history of sexual abuse, toward her end, that Susanna finally sees the cost of unchecked detachment. That turning point isn't in the memoir, it's a Hollywood addition, but one that serves a purpose in the film's emotional arc. Still, it's worth asking what that addition does to the story. The film often sacrifices psychiatric accuracy in favor of narrative clarity. The hospital feels more like a metaphor than a medical facility. Nurses are conspicuously absent during critical moments. Therapy is rarely explained, and women wander the halls in full makeup, a choice more aligned with Hollywood beauty standards than historical reality. These decisions blur the line between realism and stylization, between authentic exploration and aesthetic storytelling. But even within those stylized frames, the film carries truth, not always about psychiatry, but about gender, power, and control. Susanna's time at Claymore is marked by a lack of agency. She isn't told her diagnosis at first. She's infantilized, sexualized, and sidelined. Her recovery, when it comes, is not about returning to being good or normal. It's about reclaiming the right to define herself. And that's the radical heart of Girl Interrupted. In both the book and the film, what's at stake isn't simply whether Susanna is mentally ill, it's whether women who don't behave, who don't marry, don't obey, don't smile, are allowed to exist without being punished. The film's final act ties everything up more neatly than the memoir ever does. Susanna's release, Lisa's breakdown, even the apologies, these are Hollywood conclusions. In the book, she uses Vermeer's painting, Girl Interrupted at her music, to serve as a metaphor for a life suspended. But the film trades that imagery for The Wizard of Oz, another girl lost in a strange world just trying to find her way home. This change, in a way, feels superficial. Vermeer's Girl paused in contemplation, reflects the core of Susanna's experience, not madness, but interruption. A life placed on pause because it refused to follow the script. At its best, Girl Interrupted reveals that the border between sanity and madness is often a line drawn by those in power. Doctors, parents, society at large. And that line shifts depending on who you are and how willing you are to obey. Women like Susanna, who question, who hesitate, who want something more, are often pushed out of the narrative. But maybe madness in this context isn't failure. Maybe it's the first step toward freedom. The film ends with Susanna writing her story, something she controls, shapes, and claims for herself. In doing so, she doesn't become a good girl again. She becomes something far more dangerous, honest. So So what do you think? Was Susanna interrupted or finally heard? And how are you taking care of your mental health? Let me know in the comments. And if you love exploring complex female characters, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to Ladies First.